Welcome to the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. Keenan Lake is the author of the book My Daddy Taught Me That, published by Welcome, a social worker and activist. You can like this show's fan page at www.facebook.com/The Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. Feel free to post any comments, questions, or requests for his book on the fan page. Now let's go into the studio with your host, Mr. Keenan Lake, and co-host, Marcus Select.
Coach, I'm doing wonderful. On this Sunday, and eager to talk about the topic at hand. Eager to get involved and get some of this information out today's show. Coach, has been bugging me now for the past few days, and even actually probably leading on more to that. How about yourself?
Doing good. Sorry our lead in there was muted, but thank you so much for joining us for the Keenan Lake Show live and on demand on SIBN Radio. And with us here in the studio is Keenan Lake. And our topic today, Keenan, is kind of interesting. Does Black America care about the future? Wow.
That's exactly right, Coach. And Coach, I tried to wait till late to tell you about that because I know how you get turned up, Coach. You go in, So I wanted to kind of give the topic to you a little late today. But let's get started, Coach. So, Coach, and the reason I said does Black America care about our future is because of the plight that some things that we deal with. And Coach, you know what's going on in this world. You're a pretty well-rounded, educated individual, but not only that, you seek out information. You seek to find out and stay tuned as to what's going on. So, Coach, let me tell you what really got me, more, I should say, leaning toward this title and topic today. This past Thursday, there was a Buncombe County commissioners meeting. Okay, they held a meeting, and what ended up happening was this: there's a Tea Party right-wing, a real radical right-wing Tea Party alliance here in Nashville. Now, as everyone knows, this past term, North Carolina went from being a Democratic state to a Republican state. Well, Coach, this was what came out. It was an email that came out for as many people to show up to this meeting that took place this past Thursday. Now, I got the email, midday Thursday, but apparently this meeting had been scheduled for a while, and it was kind of unbeknownst to, a lot of people. So what was going on is this third party, this right-wing Tea Party, radical group, whatever you want to call them, politician group, whatever, what they want to do is this. They want to send a letter to your home, okay? And then the letter that's going to come in the mail, if you don't respond to the letter, then they're going to do what they call a courtesy knock on your door. If you don't respond to the courtesy knock on your door, then when it's time for you to go vote, you won't be able to vote. Well, the bad thing about this, or the weird thing about this, Coach, is that on the email, there was a list of places that this was going to be done at. And every last one of the places that it was going to be done at was all places where African Americans resided, primarily. Mm-hmm. This was pretty much seemed like it was targeted in those areas. So what they're planning on doing again, Coach, they're going to send a letter, mm-hmm. And this is of course probably will not be a certified letter. I mean, and this is the thing too. How can you, it's like how can you, it seems like to me it's almost against the law to say I'm going to send a letter, because if that's the case, if and in fact it's not, a certified letter, which is going to cost money. So I don't think no one's going to be sending, thousands of letters out. That's going to be costing money to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's going to probably be a letter that is, something that you may not read. It could be even some kind of junk mail type looking letter that, most people may throw away and not even pay attention to. If at all, they send a letter, because it's like, who's going to check on this? Mm-hmm. So it's basically like this, Coach. I'm going to send you a letter. If you don't respond to the letter that I'm going to send you, then I'm going to knock on your door. If I knock on your door and you don't respond, then you're going to go and vote, and it's going to say, well, no, you can't vote because you didn't respond to either one. But no one's following up. No one's checking to make sure this is being done. And it's almost like it seems like a scare tactic in a way, in a discouragement type strategy type thing that they're doing. But Coach, it kind of makes me wonder too, because what they were saying was this too, and I think this is something else that I learned about last week. You know of the Koch brothers, right, Coach?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Koch brothers are two billionaire brothers who, they actually did a lot of publicity towards Obama. They were the ones who funded all the commercials and stuff like that. The anti-Obama, they're totally against President Obama. But what they've done, they came out and said point blank that they will never lose another election. That from this point going forward, they won't lose another election. So they ended up giving North Carolina, because it's a Republican state, like $8 million. I think New York got $12 million, and somewhere in between North Carolina and New York got $10 million. So what they're trying to do is target all Republican states to, give money to keep these states Republican. Now, with that, what happened last week, they were talking about all these states trying to get, because, right now, it's like the elections, the primaries, so it's time to start voting for senators and governors and all this other kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, we both know, Coach, that black folks don't really come out for that. We come out and vote for the president, but we don't vote a lot for the smaller people, the mayors, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So what they're trying to do, is make President Obama lame duck. What they're trying to do is fill these seats, these senators, these governors. They're trying to fill all these things up with as many Republicans as they can. Mm-hmm. So when it's time for the president, because he has about 2.5 years left on his term, when it's time for him to make these decisions, he'll basically be a lame duck. He'll be sitting as a president, but won't have any control of power because all the Republicans will have it. Mm-hmm. So, Coach, what do you think about that?
Well, what I was going to ask you, is this for people who don't have or who are not registered to vote, or is this for people who supposedly don't have an ID on record? Why are they starting this letter-sending, door-knocking campaign? What is it? What kind of voter are they targeting?
Well, it seems like what they're trying to do is for the IDs. That's what it seems like. Mm-hmm. But once again, the way I understand it is the ID thing doesn't even come into term until 2016. So technically, like say for example, I went up and voted for the senator or the governor or something like that. Mm-hmm. They can't even, they can ask for your ID, but they can't turn me away if I don't have an ID until 2016, to my understanding. But see, I don't think people understand that. People don't know that. So it's like, well, if I don't know that, and they just say, well, where's your ID, and I don't have one, I may just say, well, I don't have one, and walk away without disputing it.
Right. Well, okay, so that's the premise. The premise is that they've already passed a measure of the law, or the law, that will enact identification for each voter. And so it sounds like what you're saying is that during the interim period, they have come up with this, really it's like a gimmick or something, because as you said, I don't know how it's verifiable, and then we'll talk about how much the poor moves in a minute. So that I don't know how in the world, but they're trying to so-called verify voters on the rolls, it sounds like to me. And they're going to do this verification through a letter and a knock, which sounds like a joke. But let's go to the core of your question. Do blacks or African Americans and Hispanics or minorities of any sort,
minorities in general,
even the poor whites, even poor whites in rural areas and other places, do they care about the future? The point is the statistics and the patterns of political planning hinges on political behavioral of the past of various voting districts and blocks. And so I hear it regularly, as you have just eloquently stated, that we don't turn out for midterms. Now let's just attack that just for a minute. And I myself must also stand to be corrected on that. I have voted in midterms, but not all of them. And I have not always been as enthusiastic about midterms as I am about the presidential election. That being said, this is where the Democratic Party, not to make this a political show, but to make a political statement, this is where the Democratic Party of late is and have and will be hurting. And for those that are listening to the Keenan Lake Show, we all need to vote in the midterms. That being said, a lot of this behavior is from the patterns that is studied on political geographical areas that do not turn out for various reasons. I mean, they don't turn out for reasons of transportation. You'd be surprised at the reasons. There's reasons of the seniors being aided to turn out because they can't also stand in long lines. There's reasons of finances being able to get there, whether it be gas, public transportation. There's reasons of who's going to watch the kids while I'm gone. I got 5 of them. I need some help. So with all of these and more, Republicans over the years have tallied this political behavior, and we are sitting on a pattern now, So I think when you ask the question, do we care about the future, I think the greater question is, are we willing to change the pattern by which we have already been predicted to fail by not even exercising what so many of our forefathers fought and died for us to exercise, and that is the right to vote. Now, I'll say this, and I'll try to give the ball back to you. It is absolutely surprising to me, and I just, to be honest with you, Keenan, I didn't pay it no attention. I'll admit, I kind of thought it was maybe a spotty issue, but it is absolutely, if you Google voter suppression, you will find that from the top to the bottom of this country, there has been legal efforts, not just talk, but legal efforts by changing, for instance, the time that people vote, because they understand, if you understand the demographics of poor people, they usually work later. I need some help. They have service jobs, and that's a whole nother conversation. Also, transportation, picking their kids up from daycare or picking their kids up from Pookie and them. And then, of course, there's the food and expense. But it's just amazing to me, Keenan, that all the effort that has gone into suppressing the vote. So, Keenan, I want to turn the question back over to you. Dude, if they're going to suppress the vote, then they must anticipate what we ourselves have not valued as minorities. If these folks ever get an idea of their power they have in their vote, we would never get in office with the rhetoric that you hear, on the cable news networks and so forth and so on. They must, we're not even aware, Keenan, of our own power in the voting right. You see what I'm saying? So, man,
you're absolutely right, Coach.
And North Carolina is, you were saying earlier, I wanted you to elaborate on that changeover from Democratic to Republican. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
And
Coach, let me just say this too. And what I wanted to do, Coach, I wanted to get a good dialect, which we're doing, about this topic, because it's even more to it than that, Coach. It's like, when you look deeper, and this is why the title of the show is what it was. It's almost like, now don't get me wrong, a lot of this is like you said, cleverly done. They change times. Like, for example, I think we talked about this on a previous show, whereas, during the whole Trayvon Martin scene, when it happened, when it was going down and the world was focused on that, that's when they actually went in and passed the law about the voter supremacy, act, and started doing things like that. So don't get it twisted. I think that there is a clever scheme, like you pointed out, Coach, that they're not going to let you know to show up for this meeting, to show up for this, to do that. It's not going to be broadcasted. It's not going to be put out in the public view. They want to try to hide. They don't want you showing up to meetings to protest and to contest this and to dispute that. They want to be able to pass these laws, behind closed doors and X, Y, Z, so they can get it done without us even knowing. Mm-hmm. With that being said, though, I think we have to take onus on it on this level, Coach. We as a people, I tell you the first thing, I love sports like it ain't no other. Basketball, football, I'm a huge sports fan, I love music, I love entertainment, but we have to get our mind set to where it's like we're not just focused on those things and we show up to every basketball and football game. We need to start showing up to these county commissioner meetings, and we need to start showing up to things that hold our futures at hand. The decisions that are being made are primarily being made for us and our well-being. So how are there going to be decisions made at the table I'm not even at the table to hear about the decisions that are being made. I found out about it, a year later down the road when it's too late, or you find out about these decisions when they're too late to dispute.
Well,
when they're too late to.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, why suppress a vote of which you have statistical data that tells you that vote won't count anyway because the vote won't be cast? I think you just said the answer, though. The answer is, since we've been asleep for so long regarding midterms, or I could be wrong statistically about that, but we've been asleep for quite a while, I'll say a number of years here. If I pass a law since you sleep that will, as you just eloquently stated, that will cause you to have missed your opportunity to use or exercise your right, then I've won on two fronts. One, because you were asleep and you wasn't voting anyway. But two, now I have circumvented the entire process of you exercising your right by passing a law. I mean, this is the part that gets me, though, Keenan. How are you going to pass a law where I can't vote? The polls, like in Ohio, the polls are supposed to be closing early in the midterms. MSNBC Zachary Roth, let me just read this to you. Working ballot by ballot, county by county, the Republican Party is attempting to alter voting laws in the biggest and most important swing states in the country in hopes of carving out a sweeping electoral advantage for years to come. Changes already on the books in bills before state legislators would make voting harder, watch this, create longer lines, and threaten to disenfranchise millions of voters from Ohio to Florida, Pennsylvania to Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, and Texas. Efforts are underway, including moving election days, ending early voting, and forcing strict new voter ID laws. And these results could significantly cut voter turnout in states where historically, as you were saying earlier, lower participation has benefited Republicans. And it goes on. Keenan, I don't know what to say.
Coach, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll dive a little bit deeper into this discussion.
Yes, sir. It's a hot fire always. You're listening to the Keenan Lake Show right here on SIBN Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the sounds of your lifestyle improvement station.
Hi, Jamaica Chapel, College Park, Georgia, in the house. You're listening to SIBN Radio.
Hi, this is Ted Bowles calling from Richmond, Virginia, and you're listening to the Lifestyle Improvement Station, SIBN Radio. Y'all turn it up now.
Hi, this is VJ Washington calling from Atlanta, Georgia. You're listening to the Lifestyle Improvement Station, SIBN Radio. So turn it up.
Hi, my name is Sonia Claiborne from East St. Louis, Illinois, by way of Columbusville, Missouri. You're listening to the Lifestyle Improvement Station, SIBN Radio. Turn it up.
What's good? It's your boy Joe coming from Snellville, Georgia. You're listening to the Lifestyle Improvement Station, SIBN Radio. Y'all turn it up.
You're listening to the sounds of your lifestyle improvement station, changing the way we live. SIBN FM, powered by Southern USA TV. Responsible, accountable. Who taught you that? My daddy taught me that. That's right, the new book all the way from Asheville, North Carolina, representing the legacy of Benny Lake is Keenan Lake, the author of My Daddy Taught Me That, the book and the program for young men in Asheville, North Carolina, and throughout the region. Tune in to the program, the project, and the book at MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com. For more information, email lake@MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com. or call 828-582-2261. That's 828-582-2261. MyDaddyTaughtMeThat.com.
Thank you for joining us right here on the Keenan Lake Show, live and on demand. We're talking about whether or not minorities, African Americans, Hispanics, non-whites care about the future, their future, communal future, as well as their economic future, because Keenan, if they can pass laws to suppress a vote, they can also pass laws to suppress jobs, and I think they probably already done that.
Coach, you know, this is the area that I want to attack this whole discussion at, and it'll kind of bring validity and also insight as to where I want to go, Coach, with this conversation. But you look at it like this: we talk about just about on every show about how there's a systematic structure in this country that has always attacked the minority, you know, the African American population, you know, those who are less fortunate, and that this how it's probably always been, and that's how it's going to always be. You know, there's no such thing as, you know, fair equality. You know, you try to do things that be equal, but the masses, you know, that 1% who own all the money doesn't want it that way. So look, we talked about the Koch brothers. You know, they want to keep every Republican state that makes a difference. The Ohio's, you know, the North Carolina, those states that truly make a difference in the voting scheme. They want to keep those states Republican or transform those states Republican so they can ensure their victory. There was a couple of comments, Coach, and I think I said this on maybe the last radio show. The owner of Home Depot, okay, the owner of Home Depot, who's a billionaire. I don't know his name. I forgot his name, but he came out the other day and said that the way he thinks voting should be done is that however much money you pay in taxes per year, that's how many votes you should get. Now, he eloquently put, or arrogantly, I should say, put that he pays millions and millions of dollars in taxes a year, so that's how many votes he should get, you know, during the time of election. And basically, he said if you don't pay any taxes, you shouldn't be able to vote, period. So another billionaire came out and talked about helping out the poor and middle class as being worse than the Holocaust. Okay, so these are billionaires who, you know, this is just a few. You know, there's tons of billionaires who are really, really anti-helping anybody. They don't want to help the middle class. They don't want to help the poor. All they want to do is help themselves become richer and richer and more prominent and stuff like that. So, Coach, the struggle that I have with this is this. You know, like I said, do I love living and do I love doing fun things? Of course. I mean, what person wouldn't want to do something? So if I had it my way, I could be on the beach for the rest of my life just chilling out and doing something, you know, living the dream, you know, but I have a calling, and my calling is to try to help as many people as I can possibly help and do as much as I can to ensure that our next generation of young folks are equipped to handle what's going on in this world. But when we exclude ourselves, Coach, now we know what those who have money and those who are in power want to do. But it's like, what bothers me is when we don't equip ourselves or we don't give ourselves a fighting chance. So we don't show up to any type of meetings to, like I said earlier in the show, to address our own future and our own well-being. We're not equipping our youth. We're not showing up to PTA meetings. You know, and it's like, where is it? This is the thing, Coach. You know, I talked about this on my last show, too, and I'm going to let you address this. I talked about the fact that, you know, when I talked about the young men in my program who didn't know that when they answered the question, were they rich or poor, you know, the majority said that they're not rich or poor, but they're not rich, but they're far from being poor, and the reason that they're far from being poor is because they have Jordans, PlayStations, Xbox, cell phones, stuff like that. Now, the majority of the youth who stated that were receiving public assistance and, you know, some type of public assistance. So we both know that those children are at the bottom of the barrel, okay? But the problem, Coach, that I have is that we don't even know. Just like those, you know, they don't even know that they're poor. We don't even know that we're in a game. We don't even know that we're fighting a system. And it's like, if you don't know, how can you equip that? You know, it's like, okay, I don't know. I didn't know that I was being put in this position. I didn't know that they were trying to do this to me. I didn't know that they were trying to do that to me. So it's like, if you have no idea that you're even in a certain state, how can you transform that? How can you fight that? Well, and that's what we have to start understanding with this. Like, yeah, there's a plan. There's things that's going on that are outside of our control. But what we can do is equip ourselves by at least knowing, like, okay, you know what? I know what they're trying to do. So at least if I know, even if I can't get out here, even if I can't, okay, so for example, Coach, you made a very valid situation. let's just say they change the bus route. They change, transportation is a problem. Okay, I may not be able to physically go, primarily if I'm an elderly. Mm-hmm. But what I can do is equip myself, and I can tell everybody that I encounter, all these young folks, where they need to go and what they need to be doing. Or, that's what I'm talking about, Coach. It seems like we're just so in the clouds about things, and our focus is so left field to where we don't even know what's going on. We don't have a clue, and yet we're still, confused about, or when things do happen, it's like, well, I didn't know, or that's not right, that's not fair. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because as you said earlier, we have to take onus, and making that statement that you just said won't work anymore, because as you have done in all your shows, Keenan, I commend you again. I think that this show today and other shows, they serve as wake-up calls to try to also, it's not about just getting people to be better parents at this point. Really, you got to be a well-rounded citizen. If you're a minority, you know that you're living in a dichotomy where we have a great sum of minorities that are taking advantage of the system, and we have a great sum of minorities that are working their own plan, pulling themselves up, as the Republicans say, by their own bootstraps. But here's the thing: no longer. Someone once said that the baby boom generation is getting older, and Caucasians, and I'm talking about older people. I'm not talking about the new generation of whites who integrate and believe in working together. I'm not talking about that, but the older white power generation, so to speak, is fading. And so someone suggested, I'm paraphrasing sort of, someone suggested, listen, in order to keep power in the United States of America, where someone like President Barack Obama, doesn't rise to the top the American way, this is what we're going to have to do. And we're going to have to feed, let's just go back to what the Keenan Lake Show has been talking about for the last year. We're going to have to feed them as much junk food as possible. Let's do it through the music. Let's do it through big name celebrities. Let's do it through the type of cars they drive. I was talking to my wife the other day about folks buying a particular car. I won't call it out. I said, why is so many people buying that car? And she says, honey, they don't even know that car has no value at trade-in time. I need some help right there. So through our economic purchases and decisions, we need to feed them back to what you said earlier, the last 12 months. People need to go back into the archives of the show and listen. Educationally, let's go to this new core curriculum crap that they're coming out with. It's going to be tougher, they said, but it'll be better for teachers. Let's go to No Child Left Behind. Let's feed as much crap as we possibly can. Let's feed them some fast food, because they love fast food. The statistics show that nobody cook anymore. Nobody sit around the table anymore. Let's feed these jokers as much junk as possible. Let's get some new reality shows. Let's make famous some of the most average people through places like American Idol and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then get their attention off what you had said earlier, late last year, off the mastermind plan that while I'm watching American Idol, God bless all the ones that make it through, while I'm watching The Voice, that's one of my favorite shows, while I'm watching Housewives of Atlanta, while I'm turning up on Beyonce's Drunken Love, while I'm all turned up on running around, no time to cook nothing, all this fast food, which could be a whole nother conversation about the poisons that is in our fast food that's helping us think like this. While we're doing all of this enjoyment, calling ourselves living big and living large, they are passing LAWS. It'd be different if they passed a rule, or it'd be different if they had a committee that was outspoken. It'd be different if they got on the news, but they are actually passing laws that prohibit you and restrict you. And we're not going to be able to say, Keenan, that statement that you just said, that's not even fair, Keenan. I didn't even know that. We can't even afford to say those two statements anymore. Why? We got the internet. I need some help. We're on Facebook posting about Jesus and Jim Bug. We're on Twitter tweeting about booty calls. You get me to go in now. But we are not asking the critical questions like you're saying about the future.
Coach, I'm glad you got turned up. Well, you be bringing it. That's what. And see, you made some valid points, Coach. And what I heard, and I didn't even think about it, but I heard an elderly couple. They was talking to me. This was probably about 2 to 3 months ago, and they were telling me. They said, they were talking about TV, and one of the gentlemen, he said, I very rarely watch TV. He said because about what you said, the garbage and the filth. Well, I love television. I watch TV all day, all night if I could. However, when I heard him say what he said, I was like, wow, he never lied. He said, you have what you just said, some of the most average, untalented people. He said, these people have no talent. Like, they have no talent. Mm-hmm. But then it made me think, because, you have, it's like, and they get all the shine, all the spotlight. Now, please, folks, understand that the Keenan Lake Show is not about hating or being, having any type of haterade or that kind of stuff on anybody. If you're out there doing your thing, making millions of dollars and stuff like that, congratulations. Continue to do so. Okay. But, Coach, it's like, these folks, it's almost like they get the dumbest of the bunch, the most untalented of the bunch, right. And then they set those folks up as a standard.
Right.
And it's like, that can't be like that. It's like, why not get some of the most educated, some of the most talented, the ones who are truly capable of change, because they know, and what happens is they know if they did that, they wouldn't be, just like, for example, Coach, you look at Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby gets so much heat for the true statements that he makes. It's true. It's like, he talks about being able to speak intelligently and articulate your words, and, and then they make him out to be like he's Uncle Tom or like he's too hard. It's like, no, it's not. He's telling me the truth. We got people who can't even read and write and making millions of dollars. Then you have those who follow the ones who are not, Coach, again, doing the just or the right things, and then we wonder why the rest of our youth or our kids are acting and doing the way they're doing. I mean, we have to do better, Coach.
No, I mean, Keenan, you have said it 1,000 times at least on this show that we have to take onus of our own. When we come into the knowledge of something, the old folks used to say, listen, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. And Black America, minorities in this country, here's the other thing that people need to understand. White folks understood, and this is not geared, this is a blanket statement, but it's not geared to all white folks, but this is a general fact. They realized that they're fastly becoming the minority. I'm talking about numbers now, not in behavior, not in political behavior, not in psychological, economic behavior, but in sheer numbers, Caucasians in America have become a minority. They have become a minority, even though you see whites everywhere. They were getting older. They're becoming seniors now. They have to, they pass the baton on to somebody. And so and then the other issue is immigration not being solved by any means. It hasn't been solved yet anyway. With plus, I want to say 12 to 13, 14, 15 million Hispanics being here, and a lot of them turning 18 somewhere between, you almost got about 5,000 plus a month or something like that. I forget the numbers, where these Hispanics are turning 18, which grows these moderate demographic voting blocks to such a proportion that could pose such a threat to the establishment that, and this is one of the reasons why the Hispanic or the immigration issue has been tabled. It's been tabled because, look, I ain't interested if I'm a Republican and if I'm an old white head, bless our white brothers, but if I'm an old white head, I'm not interested in giving nobody a pathway to citizenship to exercise more rights. I'm busy right now trying to make sure that my family's name is in power in the next 20 years. And trust me, old white folks plan their power decades in advance.
Yep. Thank you, Coach. You know what? And see, that's what it's all about, Coach. It's like, what I type to teach and preach, Coach, is being able to help stand for all equality. Right. For black, white, green, purple, whatever. If you're a human being on this earth, then you should be able to have just as many rights as the next person. You should be able to enjoy life and have a decent life just like the next person, as long as you're willing to be a positive influence, work for what you get, do it the right way, and live, according to Christ and according to the Lord, then you should be able to do any and everything just like the next person, no matter what color you are. But you are absolutely right, what you just said. That older generation, like you just stated, they're dying out. But then the thing is this too, Coach. You have so many more interbreeding, intermixing, mixing of races and stuff like that. And so, and we know on this earth that that the white folks are not the majority on the planet anywhere. And even here, there has been discussion, even in this country, America, there has been discussion that the numbers have been skewed. That we have always been led to believe that we were minorities. That African Americans, the numbers have always been skewed, because what happens is they don't want you to know how many of us there are, so they can kind of keep that in this form of control.
And
so that's always been an argument.
Here's another thing to think about. Listen, here's another thing to think about what you just said. If I am the majority as a race, as African American people, I would grow my race in a quadrupled way with the kids that are on board right now. But here's the problem. The educational system, I must infiltrate that, and I must poison the opportunities of young black cats, young black boys, and young black girls with the music, with recreation, with, of course, the internet, and on and on and on. Head Start being underfunded. I could go on. I could go in with that. But we could triple, with all the kids that we're having as African American, we could quadruple the population. But the reason why they want to skew the numbers is because there's some element of truth to where our population is going. To jail, to the graveyard, and sadly say to a hole somewhere, feeling ashamed that we missed opportunities, we mismanaged our decisions. And so you remember how when they come knock on the door for the census back in the old days, where mama could be in the Section 8 house and the father would run because he wasn't supposed to be there, and so he wasn't counted. He wasn't counted. She wasn't counted. They wasn't counted. And so listen, folks, listen. We are in the state of emergency. We've been saying that. We've been saying that for a while now, because we are. And listen, Keenan, I want you, when we come back from the break, I want you to give some practical steps of what we could do in the right now. Midterms are coming up this year. Midterms are coming up. I believe they're coming up. They don't just come up in November now. People need to understand that. Midterms are not just in November. Is that right, Keenan? A lot of things go down in the next couple of months. A lot of states have voting responsibilities. And so when we come back from the break, I want Keenan to offer you that are listening some practical steps, because I promise you, the stuff that we are reading, the articles that we are reading, the documentaries that we are watching, it looks bad, folks. It looks bad. There was one official that said this. Talking about black folks now. I'm just going to speak to black folks just for this moment. A local GOP official said this. He resigned, but he told The Daily Show, it hurts that a bunch of lazy blacks want to live off the government and want the government to give them everything. But let me give my rebuttal to that question. It is so obvious. If you paint black folks bad, you'll create a smokescreen for what folks are doing. Folks are stealing your votes. They're changing the educational system. We just had a financial crisis. Keenan, nobody went to jail. Nobody. Bernie Madoff, that was a joke. I mean, that was really a joke. The cookie was all over his mouth or something. But I'm just saying, we are in a state of emergency, Keenan. So when we come back, we got to give the people, what can they do, Keenan? Show up for your PTA meeting. For the love of God, show up at the voting booth. Turn on talk radio. Hear what your enemies are saying. Turn off the entertainment and get some education meant. I got to go to break, Keenan. see, this is why I don't like to call you.
That's right, Coach.
All right, we're going to be right back.
All right, Coach. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after the break, y'all. This is Keenan Lake Show, live on SIBN Radio. Step away.
We trust that you are enjoying the show. Stay right there. We'll be right back after these messages.
PW. That's right. The Select USA TV Collabo Media Groups and Partners Worldwide, for a limited time, has opened up its membership to the general public. Now you can collaborate worldwide with media conglomerate SIBN Television and Radio. If you want to join free of charge for this limited time offer, then visit www.WeSupportSelectUSATV.com. That's right, we have programs, benefits, service, and so much more to offer to our members exclusively at SCGPW. That's right, visit www.WeSupportSelectUSATV.com. That's www.WeSupportSALETTTEUSATV.com.
Welcome back to the Keenan Lake Show, live and on demand, right here on SIBN Radio, talking about how minorities, blacks, Hispanics, Latinos should be thinking about the future. Keenan, I mean, we got to have some practical steps because this can be overwhelming. But what can we do locally, in our homes, in our families? What could we do?
Well, Coach, first of all, like I state in every show, we have to be informed. We have to start turning off, the Atlanta Housewives. I'm not, again, my show is not a show to hate on the Atlanta Housewives or any other, network, reality TV show, anything like that. But we have to start turning these things off to a degree and educating and informing ourselves about what's going on, not only in our neighborhoods, but in our states, our country. We have to be knowledgeable about what's going on so we can be able to, have some kind of because like I said earlier in the show, Coach, if we don't know, if you have no idea, then you can't put up a good fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's the bottom line. Secondly, I think we got to be able to, first of all, it starts in the home with anything. It starts when you talk about raising kids and you talk about the outcome of our kids, it starts in the home. So we got to be able to not only as parents educate our youth and our kids, but educate ourselves. So that's being able to know what's going on, being able to be informed about it. Next, I think everything's not for everybody, but if you don't stand up for if you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. So next, we got to start being involved with these meetings. Going to PTA meetings, going to county commissioner meetings, going to meetings in your communities to say, okay, you know what? Even if you don't speak, even if you don't say one word, you're being represented by being there.
Mm-hmm.
So people can look at you and say, okay, you know what? There are people here.
Mm-hmm.
They may not say much, but they're here. They know what we're doing. So we got to be careful on how we tread.
Yeah.
We can't just go in this meeting and talk about this, that, and the third. We got to be careful not to say, okay, you know what? Everybody who lives, this is just an example from where I live, Coach. But the letters that I was talking about earlier, the knocks on the doors, come from, they were targeting the Hillcrest, the Lee Walker Heights, the Erskine,
right.
The Mofford area, the Shiloh area, places where large minority African-American people reside.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like when they have these meetings and they say, okay, if you're talking in my neighborhood, you're talking where I live, then I need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know I need to know exactly what's going on with what you're talking about where I live, in my neighborhood, my community.
Mm-hmm.
So when they start seeing us show up to these things, they can say, okay, you know what? We got to be really different on how we approach this topic. Mm-hmm. So knowing about things, informing yourself, educating yourself, showing up, and then letting your voices be heard. Now, if you're equipped and you're capable and you're willing to get out here and talk, you need to do that. But also, ultimately, your voices are heard by being able to get out here and vote and put your information on that paper and turn it in. So when the politicians, when the people who are in power get elected
mm-hmm.
and are making decisions, we can't cry about it. Like, well, we had no idea. We didn't. Well, did we vote? Did we let our voices be heard in that area? So those are just a few, Coach.
But I think I was going to ask you another question. I think that across the races, I'm not just talking about for just minorities and African Americans and Latinos, but I think that across the board, entertainment has been raised. The value of entertainment, the enjoyment of it, and the value of it has been raised so high that it's a whole lot of Caucasian folk caught off guard with a lot of this stuff. I mean, imagine being white and not a racist and seeing this stuff come up. Imagine being an inclusive person and seeing these things come up. It's quite disturbing. I want to reference a story that came out in the news not too long ago, just to talk about how sometimes even Caucasians are caught off guard. This kid was in this class, and I believe he was hit by a black kid. The kid was white, and he got into the scuffle again, Keenan, over some tennis shoes. This kid hit this kid so hard that he knocked and broke his entire nose frame off his skull. The entire nose was knocked off, not broken. The entire nose was knocked off of his skull bone. The emergency was not called, just the parent was called, and the boy was bleeding all over the place, and they just called the parent. So anyway, I said all that to say that the parent, which is white, said that the boy should face more serious charges, but according to the rule handbook and the school's guidebook and all this other kind of stuff, the child was only charged with a misdemeanor. But it was interesting that the parent and others are saying, man, it sounds like to me, Keenan, that we need some policy changes. Policy number one need to be changed. If you see a child bleeding beyond a mosquito bite, beyond a regular nosebleed or something, and just got into some kind of scuffle, since you're not a doctor, since you're not a, medical professional, you're just maybe a nurse or something like that, let's dial 911. Duh. But until enough people get upset that could have been their child, and as you said, until they go to the PTA meetings, until they go to some of the district meetings, and so forth and so on, they would never know that there are so many old policies on the books that your child could die in the school system, and they'll be standing there saying, well, it wasn't according to our policy. We followed it because X, Y, and Z. But policies even need to be changed. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that really is sad about our America now. We're so myself included in this. I'm not excluding myself from this, and that's why I'm here doing this show, to try to take onus, as you always say, and be responsible. But we're so wrapped up in pleasure-driven lifestyles, Keenan, that we don't realize this kid got his nose knocked off his skull. First of all, over some tennis shoes, because the other kid just thought that he stole his tennis. Just thought the kid stole his shoes. And so, but that's indicative of how we are as adults. Man, don't let nothing block make sure you TiVo my favorite show. But we're not proactive, Keenan, and that's what this show is about. We're trying to not only raise our own level of responsibility, but we're trying to, one thing I like about your show, let's just close off to talk about what we like about this show. I like that this show informs. If you want to know what's happening, the latest and the greatest, the first thing that I learned from Keenan is that 3rd and 4th grade scores are being used to predict who's going to be in prison. I need some help. Okay. Or your favorite Walmart is part of the prison privatization process, and things of that nature. So people, Keenan, have to tune in. And, even with that, we want to hear their voices. Keenan, what's up with that? Right. I mean, me and you could be talking about how that the world is going to end. We got evidence that a bomb will go off that will take us all down, and we won't have no phone calls, no posts, where, when, how, what do I need to do? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'll just turn it back over to you on that question.
Well, no, Coach, I mean, you're absolutely right. And the key thing that you just said was we need to be proactive. We need to be involved. And that's it, Coach. I mean, us sitting back, waiting for somebody else to do it for us, waiting for people to get a conscience about people dying out here. It's like, I would pray, we being able to, 2 things, Coach, us being Christians and leading and trying to live by, Christ's example. Neither one of us are perfect, will never be. However, You know, we still are trying to live by what Christ teaches, and we're trying to live by what our fathers, you know, instilled and taught us. You know, that's LOVE, that's love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if you're sitting back waiting for people to get a conscience, that's not going to happen. People,
okay.
You know, the way this world is going, you know, they only care about one thing, and that's their own survival and their own well-being, and you know how much they can accumulate in their lifetime. You know, they can care less about anybody else. Now, that's not all people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not even the majority, but that is happening, and it seems like that is the ones who make the decisions and who have the most money. It seems like that's their mentality and attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, Coach, you know, I think you hit the nail right on the head. We have to be proactive, and we have to be able to get involved with what's going on, because if we don't, you know, it's going to be some trouble.
Well, we already got trouble. I mean, when the final say so comes down with this food stamp cut, we're gonna see a pattern change for sure. You know, I mean, it's kind of dormant right now because all of the cuts have not taken place. They kind of rolled back some of the sequester cuts. Head Start still was faced with cuts, and is faced with more cuts. I mean, when you look at the educational process alone, we're in a state of emergency. And speaking of education, Keenan, I think it was this show that really gave me the power to say, you know, I'm going to take my son's education into my hands. I've tried to trust that process, and I will continue to still trust other processes. But as a parent, you know, with incidents that have happened with my son, and now other parents are coming forth talking about incidents that have happened to their son, particularly sons now, I got the courage to do it from the Keenan Lake Show. Why? Because we talk about what's already on the menu for them to eat in the next, when they turn 18, when they turn 16, when they turn 21. These things that we're talking about today about voting and other things are already on the menu. The waitress and the waitress just asking, you know, what are you going to order? And we ourselves have to get up from the table and say, you know what, I don't want to eat here. I'm going to choose to eat somewhere where civil rights is still on the menu. I need some help. You know what I'm saying? Where educational balance is still on the menu, and on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? So, but I got the power to do that with my son, to homeschool him, that is, from being empowered from this show. Because you've made me aware, and others aware, that, listen, I mean, you can complain all day about the status quo, what's happening out there in the streets, what's happening in legislative houses and on. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? And being mad, you know, it's just never enough, you know?
There you go. Okay, let me just give this last fact. Now, once again, folks, I said this will be the third time that I said this. So, you know, I want you guys to know that I'm not trying to jeopardize anyone's livelihood. I'm not trying to hate on anyone. In fact, you know, the next person that I'm about to talk about, I like very much. I love him as, you know, he's my all-time second favorite basketball player behind Magic Johnson. I have a huge section about him in my book as well, and I'm talking about Michael Jordan. Now, Coach, you know, speaking of Michael Jordan, you know, Michael Jordan, like I said, I love him to death as far as his sports. You know, I don't know him personally, but as far as watching him play basketball, you know, being able to grow up and see him play, and you know, the things that he's done, and even with the business world that he's done, you know, it's a remarkable, you know, tremendous thing.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, every Saturday there's a different pair of Jordans that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Every Saturday these kids run to the mall and buy the new Jordan. Every Saturday. So, and these are not no $25 shoes. These are basically $200 shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you get them on eBay or you get them on somewhere else, you're paying $250, $300 for the shoes. So, you know, this man is making a lot of money. Well, Coach, just recently, and listen, I'm gonna say this too, because I'm on the radio show. This has not been proven or validated by me. You know, what I read was that Michael Jordan has invested into the privatizing of prisons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Coach, and this is the thing. Now, does that make Michael Jordan a bad person?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make, you know, I would rather, from my standpoint, Coach, and the reason I probably think like that is because I'm broke, okay, and I'm not a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
But I would rather for Michael Jordan to invest in ways to deter people, particularly young African American males and young males in general, from going to prison. I would like for him to invest in ways to keep these young men out of the prison system than to make money while they're in the prison system, primarily with what he stands for. But what I heard and what I learned was that any shrewd businessman, meaning that if you want to make money, then, and in the way, I think the way some of these other people look at it too is like, well, it's a money-making opportunity. So if others are going to make money off of it, why shouldn't I? Well, again, you're Michael Jordan. I would much rather for you to set up systems, set up some type of program, something to deter, invest in strategies to deter our young men from going to prison, and to set examples to be, a leader in that area instead of making money off of it. But I just want to give that information. It's like we have to be able to say enough is enough. We got to stop being, Coach. I heard, a while back that, the African Americans, we're pretty much becoming the clown race of the world. They know that, we make the least amount of money. Well, as far as other races, but we spend the most money out of any race in the world. We spend more money than anybody, and so it's like we give all away our money. We give all away our resources. We don't have any value to show for it. We're not preserving our heritage and our history for our youth. We're not giving our youth things that they can stand up and be proud about. But then we walk around. We're leading the world in entertainment. The world looks to us for entertainment. We walk around like fools, and this is what they say about us. These are of course stereotypes. But this is what I say. This is what they say about us. But Coach, you have to wonder, is any of this true? And you have to. The same thing I said earlier, I'm gonna say now. We have to take onus of what we do. We have to be able to say, okay, you know what? Look in the mirror. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do better. For no stake am I saying that Keenan Lake is perfect, because I have a lot of flaws that I need to fix. With that being said, if we don't start straightening this out, if we don't start getting ourselves back on the right track, Coach, we're going to wake up one day and the world's going to pass us by, and we're going to be looking at ourselves in a state that we really don't want to be in.
Yeah, I mean, back to the Tennessee issue and back to the privatization of prisons. I mean, why would Michael Jordan turn it down if it's true, if you can show him 1,000% return on his money? Because they have guaranteed African Americans that will be locked up for the next 3 or 4 decades. For the next 3 or 4 decades, the projections, if anybody's in business, they're going to do sales projections with our behavior, which is widespread, particularly among those who are young, and the statistical data that is already on the books, and also if I control the media so that I can keep a dim light on the good that they're doing, of which they would gain confidence and momentum, and shine more light on the bad that they are doing, then I can, of course, I can say to Michael Jordan or any other businessman of any color, say, listen, you invest $100 million, you invest $10 million, $50 million, you're guaranteed a 100%, 1,000% return on your money. Because I have the statistical data to back it up. Parents are not going to the schools. Children are not finishing high school. They're wrapped up, tied up, and tangled up in tennis shoes, Facebook, you see what I'm saying? And their favorite art. And listen. So at the end of the day, as we come to a close, yes, allegedly, if Michael Jordan has invested his money in the privatization of prisons, it is a crying shame a person of his caliber would go that low to make so much money. But it also points to another fact, that we are so valuable that it even turns our own folks against us. And if that's true, then we ourselves, as you said, must take onus and step up to the plate. And Keenan, I want to say like my mother used to say, every little bit of help right about now. You see what I'm saying?
That's exactly right.
Hey, we out of time,
Coach,
man.
another great show, Coach, and I want to thank you for all of your advice, all of your information. You always bring so much knowledge to the show. Folks, if you want to follow me, please follow me on the KL Show. That's my Twitter. Facebook, I have My Daddy Taught Me That. I have the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. And then I just have a personal Facebook, which is also geared towards the My Daddy Taught Me That, and the Keenan Lake Show is Keenan Lake. That's another Facebook. The website. I just had the website redone. Please check out the website. Please leave me messages on how you like the website or how you don't like the website. That is www.mydaddytaughtmethat.com. There's also a donation button for the nonprofit organization, which is My Daddy Taught Me That, a men's development program for young men ages 12 through 19 right here in Nashville, North Carolina, being able to try to change the mindsets of these young men, give them a fighting chance to be equipped for the things the challenges that they have in this world. Please, if you have anything, and it's not just so much about money, resources, volunteers, all that is needed. So please check out the My Daddy Taught Me That website. Again, www.mydaddytaughtmethat.com. And if you want to talk to me personally, I can be reached at area code 828-582-2261. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Keenan Lake Show. I appreciate you.
Hey, that's a wrap right there. You've been listening to the Keenan Lake Show live and on demand on SIBN Radio. Don't forget to visit www.mydaddytaughtmethat.com. And until next time, whatever you do, take care of you. Keenan, stand by.
Thank you for joining us today for the Keenan Lake Show. We know you will be empowered as you consider the content shared by Mr. Keenan Lake, co-host Marcus Select, and our guests. For more information about Mr. Keenan Lake, please visit www.mydaddytaughtmethat, and feel free to email us at lake@mydaddytaughtmethat.com. Books can be ordered from Mr. Lake by calling 828-582-2261. Until next time, you've been listening to the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio.